What is up, guys? Good morning. Happy Saturday. It is March 8th. We are hanging out with our good friend Jesse here. This is the Dynasty Power Hour. I think this is our first time doing a show like this where we're just going to hang out and talk about a handful of Dynasty profiles in the fantasy football Dynasty world. Jesse, how are we doing today?
We're doing good, man. The birds are chirping this morning. That means good days are coming.
Yeah, I was working in the basement and I could hear all the little baby birds chirping in the bushes. So that was kind of fun. But we haven't really done a show like this. I thought we were thinking, off air that we would just talk about 1, 2, 3 players at each position and then just kind of give some thoughts on each one. So we're going to kind of just hop into a screen share here. We're going to be referencing some underdog ADP to give you guys the value of where they're being drafted, like in like a redraft best ball format type value. And then we'll look at some dynasty formulas as well. If we had to start with the quarterback position, I think ideally we want to talk about guys that are like in their second or third year that we've seen a little bit about them. And these guys have wide ranges of outcomes. We could talk briefly about Jane Daniels if you wanted to, but I'm kind of interested in like the Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, Drake Maye type level of quarterbacks. Did you have one that you wanted to start with first?
Yeah, I mean, Jaden obviously has established himself. I think the next most interesting one is probably either Bo Nix or Drake Maye. Nix because of his situation, Maye because I think he just looked really, really good. So we can maybe talk about Nix a little bit and just, they kind of built that, Sean Payton, for all the, maybe having one of the more punchable faces in the NFL. He's a guy that finds a way to, gets these quarterbacks. He builds a solid offense, and he just, he finds a way to get the best out of these guys. He obviously played very well as a rookie, looked really good. And I think he was kind of the, in your drafts last year, he's probably the last one drafted, right? Drafted a little bit later by the Broncos. He was probably in the end of the first round, maybe the beginning of the second round of your rookie drafts. But he came out there, he looked really good, and he rushed really nice too. So, he's got that floor built into his game, kind of like, Jaden does. He's obviously not going to pick up as many yards, but it's nice to have that kind of cushion, for on weeks where he doesn't put up as many yards through the air.
It's like a Patrick Mahomes level type rushing upside where you can scoot for a touchdown, you get your 20, 30 yards, you get your extra points that way. I think what impressed me is we knew he was a dink and dunker, like everything at Oregon. He had like the lowest ADOT that I could remember looking at the class last year. And that's Drew Brees. That's Sean Payton's bread and butter, getting the ball out quickly to the running backs. I don't know how many targets they had to the running backs last year, but I know Russell Wilson in the Broncos, they led the league that year. But I think what impressed me was the deep ball, especially at the end with Marvin Mims. That was something that was nice to see. We also I don't know how to evaluate the Broncos skill position group because like they don't have a running back worth a damn. They have Cortland Sutton and a weird group of guys, Marvin Mims, Devon Vele, Troy Franklin. I don't know who else is around there. Like the Broncos should probably be drafting a player. So I do like that they're going to probably be they're probably adding a running back in the draft, maybe free agency, and then they're adding some receivers. So there's that getting baked into Bo Nix. And if you just look like from about week 5 to all the way into the playoffs, he didn't play great against Buffalo, but that's understandable at Buffalo. They kind of got routed. Yep. But this was he was a starting top 10, top 12 QB for fantasy.
Absolutely.
From week 5 on, like that's pretty impressive.
Pretty fast curve. I mean, not to mention they rolled through maybe 8 tight ends throughout the year, so that could be an interesting spot.
I guess that's the one spot is they're looking at tight end right now. They have 2 really good options in the first round that I think would be kind of fun for them. But I'm just going to pull up weeks 5 through 18 here. And let's just see. Bo Nix was the 5th highest scoring QB from weeks 5 through 18. His average of 21.4 points. I don't know if that's reflective of a 4 or 6 point passing. I'm assuming that's a 6 point. Who knows? Because some of these numbers look big, but he's not a top 5 dynasty asset quarterback. But like, is that an option? Like, can he be? Like, are we too low on Bo Nix right now? Let me just double check my rankings and where I slotted him. I've got him at QB 12 behind Drake Maye and Caleb Williams. I think their tools are better. Is this too low for Bo Nix in a dynasty ranking?
Yeah, that's kind of it's the pocket, right? And I think consensus has it Maye, Caleb, Nix. If we add situation to the fold, though, and maybe weight that just a little bit more, I think Nix is in a really nice spot. And we saw flashes of really good fantasy production, whereas like Caleb, we know he can throw, but like what's he doing on the, how much is he providing from a rushing aspect? He's not as much of a rusher as Nix. So I might consider, given what Nix has done, maybe slot him like Caleb. Drake Maye is probably the one I keep him right below Maye, just because I think Maye flashed like, he can't flash that Jaden Daniels upside, a little bit more rushing ability.
I know it was just kind of like the cliche, but the Justin Herbert comparisons for Drake Maye I thought were spot on. Like Justin Herbert was a good runner early in his career, and he ran for a lot, maybe like 400 or 500 yards, I think, and a handful of touchdowns. So we should probably just talk about all three of these guys for a little bit: Drake Maye, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, because that was a pretty good quarterback class. Like all these, like for 4 rookies to be ranked in my top 12, like that is.
Yeah. I mean, we could be looking at one of the better QB classes when all said and done, right? I mean,
am I missing? I guess Michael Penix is the one that.
Yeah. And JJ. JJ McCarthy is out there too. Like, this class has really good potential. I mean, obviously the Vikings. The Vikings have to like what they see from JJ McCarthy. It already sounds like Darnold's probably not coming back because they're probably not going to pay the price. Yeah. So like, there's some really good potential here.
Just to finish up on Bo Nix, he's going off as QB7 right now, which seems a bit rich on underdog. His ADP is in line with Baker Mayfield. Kyler Murray goes a little bit behind him. Jared Goff, Caleb Williams. Look how low Drake Maye goes. He's been a target of mine. The fact that I can get him in the 11th round, 10th, 11th round right now, but at QB15, that feels like easy money. So I prefer the ADP of Drake Maye, but Bo Nix, man, like, I think he's a top 10 quarterback, but this kind of feels like we're buying him closer to his ceiling, whereas I think there's more runway up for Drake Maye.
Yeah, I would agree 100%. I mean, Drake Maye, this is obviously redraft, but Drake Maye Dynasty looks good. I mean, obviously this is going to change too because Patriots are going to add some weapons. That's going to prop his ADP up a little bit. I could see, jumping the likes of maybe a Purdy or a Caleb. I guess too with underdog too, maybe there's a little bit of you're trying to correlate teams a little bit better. So maybe the Patriots don't have a lot to correlate with. So people are kind of like, there's not a lot of stack potential there yet. But maybe I don't know what they're looking like in the draft. They're not really, we don't really know too much. Patriots keep it pretty tight to the vest. But
I was just curious where he was going on a site like Drafters. Still QB15 rush is roughly in the same spot. The ADPs are very similar. 111 is his ADP over on Drafters. So again, same thing, 10th round.
And I will say, typically, like when you look at like redraft, obviously if you're looking at Dynasty to try to like do your best balls, do your underdraft, I think the Dynasty community tends to kind of see the potential a little bit more than what, a more standard like redraft rankings will look like. So maybe that's kind of some insight to say like, hey, maybe Maye does end the year a little bit higher than where he's currently being drafted.
Did we have any final thoughts on Bo Nix? Like, I'm excited about him. If I have him, I'm not trading him away. Are you interested in acquiring Bo Nix, or is like the price a little too high at the moment right now? I mean, maybe you could get some buy lows if he regresses a little bit this year. I'm not sure how to navigate that.
Yeah, I think given that he was drafted late, you have already some good value on him. He was your rookie, maybe 201, maybe a little back half of the first round. So you've already got nice value. So if you were a team who maybe you won your ship and you just had the luxury of taking the best player, like, hey, I'll take Bo Nix. Maybe you have good quarterbacks, so maybe you could try and swap Bo Nix for, maybe this year obviously the rookie draft, the running backs look great. Maybe you try and sling out for a running back that you need. Just grab a early first rounder for Nix and get Hampton or something. I mean, I think that's not a terrible idea. But if you're QB needy and you have Bo Nix, you're not moving them.
I just wanted to kind of look and see what their trade. This is just Fantasy Pros here. I just was curious what their value was for Bo Nix. Where are we? So they got him QB 13, Superflex value of 78. And in a super flex draft, that's like the 101. If you can get, basically you're trading Bo Nix for Jonty, for maybe McMillan. That I'm probably interested in, because I think there's a lot of quarterbacks and there's not a lot of Jantis. There's not a lot of those uber stud skill position players. So I guess we're saying Bo Nix is worth the 101, 102 in this class.
Yeah, I think he probably is. And again, if you're the championship team from last year, you got a good QB room already, but you have the luxury. You're probably interested in flipping it because you'd rather have the stud RB at that point.
But we're not selling Caleb Williams and Drake Maye though for those picks, correct? Is that kind of the line?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at the season, Nick's his value was held the most by the season he had. I think Caleb and Maye, you're forward looking a little bit more, which is why you're ranking them ahead of Bo Nix.
Yeah.
So you probably want to hold.
Well, let's take a look. I guess let's go to Caleb Williams next. He was QB 16 last year, and a lot of people felt disappointed. I think a lot of it is just the stink of the Bears. Offensive line issues. Defense was better, but still not an elite defense around him. He did run the ball a lot, I thought. 483 yards. That was more than Bo Nix.
That's
just no touchdowns. So
I think he had to. Maybe that was a byproduct of needing to, and I think that's obviously the Bears are already addressing it.
I didn't get to watch a lot of Caleb Williams. I think there was the 1 or 2 games where he was in on TV, and then the 2 Packer games I watched. I mean, he torched the Packers 9 for 70. This game, they almost beat the Packers, and his legs were a huge weapon. And it looked like down the stretch, like you can see, like 37, 34, 20, like the yards are starting to pile up there. So I think the rushing floor is locked in. There's just so much issues with the coaching staff, and hopefully Ben Johnson can kind of come in and right the ship. And I don't know what the personnel grouping frequency is going to look like. I'm excited about Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, and Cole Kmet as the weapons. It sure sounds like they're bringing in a running back that can kind of be the banger, because we know DeAndre Swift's not that. So there's going to be some more, I think, just a better running game, hopefully a little bit improved offensive line. If this is your floor for Caleb Williams, it looks pretty good. You just got to get, again, he's a rookie. The 5s, the 7s, the 9s, these are all going to hopefully kind of weather away a little bit, and we're going to hopefully kind of lock into himself. He's probably like a fringe top 10, top 12 QB for dynasty purposes this year. But did you have any thoughts on Caleb Williams from last year? What are we excited about going forward?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah.
Started the year out with those 5 interceptions, but then really cleaned it up. And I think it was just a situation where he didn't have a lot of time in the pocket, but wasn't going to force a throw. And so that's why we see a lot of these 50% completion percentages. Those are going to get cleaned up. He's going to get a little bit, even if it's a second more in the pocket, I think that'll be enough where he either will have enough time to get out of the pocket and create something, or make the throw that he needs to make. So I think it's only wheels up for him again. And that's why he's probably not someone that I'm looking to trade, because, people are going to try and come in with a low offer, but Ben Johnson's coming in. We know what he's done with the Lions. This offense is going to improve. And he's a guy that talent-wise was really high. He's my number 1 pick. It's been for a while. So
I did not realize they lost 10 games in a row from week 6 to week 17. Yikes.
It's a tough stretch.
But you start to see the consistency start to hit towards the end of the year, the 9 and the 6 or whatever. But this looks like a guy that we want to be excited about. Again, we're not trading him for, I think, the 101 or the 102. His trade chart value here, they got him an 87 square super flex value, which is well above the 101 pick. So if you drafted Caleb Williams, I think you'd be silly to trade him away right now, because you're trading him probably at the lowest point of his career. And again, we think the Bears are drafting a running back. I don't know if they're going to they probably need a number 3 receiver. Yeah.
Yeah, they probably scoop someone up later in the mid rounds. Obviously, Keenan Allen's gone. I'm
just wondering if they've shown the GM has shown that he wants to be active in free agency. So what if they go out and get they wouldn't go try another Keenan Allen type project where they get a Cooper Kupp or a Chris Godwin or something, would they?
Probably not, but I can't. Pace is, he's willing to spend, like you said. They went and got 2 linemen right off the rip, so that makes me think maybe that's building to get the skill guys in the draft. We'll see what happens. They can do really anything. They're at 10, right? They picked 10 or something.
Something like that, 9 or 10.
Yeah, something in that range. So
I'm just wondering if there's they don't need a stud here though. They just need a guy that can probably stretch the field a little bit for them.
Yeah.
And hopefully DJ Moore and Odunze can play more in the slot. And then again, I've been drafting a lot of Cole Kmet just because if we're thinking Ben Johnson, we're thinking Lions offense with Amon-Ra, with Jameson Williams. I don't know if any of these guys, Moore or Odunze, can be a Jameson Williams type. Maybe that's what they're looking for. They're looking for like a Tez Johnson speed guy. He's very small, but he's a good field stretcher. And then if Cole Kmet gets a Sam Laporta type role, I think that's what excites me. So we're in on Caleb Williams. I think the Bears are hopefully going up, but to me the prize is still Drake Maye, and I can't believe how well he played with the circumstances, especially. He ends up throwing for 15 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. The rushing volume was great, 420 yards, completion percentage. That's amazing for a rookie. We love to see that 66.7. And then overall, man, like this game, whatever, he came in at the end of that game, but he went on a run here of basically double digits for the entire season. Whether he was your QB2 for Superflex leagues, you probably weren't starting him in a 1 QB league, but this to me looks like a really strong QB2, but he's probably a QB1 this year. What do we think of Drake Maye?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's building off a theme that like these QBs are all coming in now with this rushing floor that's just like beautiful for fantasy. I mean, you got 4 quarterbacks that all rush for over 400 yards. That's just what you want, especially in like a QB2 situation where maybe Maye is your QB2 and Superflex. You plug him in every week, and he's just going to build off a really solid rookie year. Yeah, I mean, he obviously was in the worst situation from who was he throwing the ball to Mario Douglas, Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry was probably his RB1 or his QB, his like number 1 skill player. I mean, Stevenson didn't even really help that much. I thought Stevenson was going to maybe be a nice like PPR, security blanket for him, but he really wasn't healthy. He kind of was up and down. Antonio Gibson came in. I mean, he just didn't have a lot to work with.
The tight ends were his favorite targets.
Cooper and Henry. I mean, Kayshon Boutte was the one every other week catching a spike 40-yard touchdown. So there's no established guy there. He needs his like Devontae Adams type weapon, and are they in the wheelhouse to grab Tet? Because it would probably be a pretty good fit.
They're at 4. I've seen a lot of Justin Hunter to him, which we should probably talk about Justin Hunter before the NFL draft one of these days because we don't know what he's going to be yet. But you mentioned, just side note, this is like one of the worst situations you could go into. And the talk of the Bears and Caleb Williams was that this was like the best situation for a young quarterback to coming into, and it just didn't end up being that. But we did get to see a lot of the tools and things that we were excited about with Caleb Williams, but sometimes other things negate that. But we're probably going into the year with Demario Douglas still in the slot. I think Kayshon Boutte can be your outside receiver, but updating a stud horse like this, we had hopes of T. Higgins. I think McMillan's a good one. I think if they wanted to, they could wait for round 2. If they wanted to grab best player available at 4, they could be looking at a Jaden Higgins. I've seen some of the receivers fall too, whether it's a Buka or Burton's probably a first-round player, but I think getting a top 5 receiver here is a lock. And I believe they brought back
would be nice.
Yeah,
another time trading.
And I think I saw his name linked to them a little bit. So they're looking actively to get Drake Maye a receiver. But not only are they going to upgrade the skill position, but he's just going to be year 2. He's going to be better, faster, and just everything. I'm not quite sure of a lot of these names on the offensive line.
Yeah, it's a hodgepodge group right there.
So that to me looks like a spot that Drake Maye could also see some dividends from being improved. And I don't know, man. Something about Drake Maye feels right. I just wanted to see his dynasty value. I think was the same as Caleb. Yeah, they're both 87. So they're both in the same tier. Same tier as Jordan Love too. So like, are you? If you have Drake Maye, we're not trading him, right? That's kind of the thought. Like,
yeah, someone's gonna buy in. Like, they're gonna try and sell him to you as, he's a QB2. He's probably a back end QB2. He's like, you're not gonna want to start him every week, but I think this is the year. ideally this is the year where we see maybe more QB1 games, and you start to feel good about him, like a strong QB2.
Yeah. And I just want to double check. So we had Drake Maye averaged about one of those games is wrong because he didn't start it. So he was roughly, I don't know. He came in as QB 23 just based on points, but he was probably more in this like Brock Purdy, Geno Smith, Aaron Rodgers.
I was gonna say probably by Caleb Williams, right? Like from
yeah, 14.6. I don't want to do the math right now, but that one game, the 2.1 game right here is really lowering his score because otherwise he's probably like in the 14s. So basically the same year with Caleb Williams and with just doing it with a lot less. So fantastic rookie quarterback class. Did you want to touch on, before we move, we spent 20 minutes on the quarterbacks here, and maybe that's one of the most important positions, but anything else you wanted to touch on for QBs real quick?
The only thing, so in your rankings, I noticed, you kind of have that grouping of the year 2 guys, and then right above them, you have the year 3 guys. Stroud and Love both had pretty bad year 2s.
Yeah.
Are you more excited about any of these rookies than, say, a Love, Stroud bouncing back in year 3? Like, are any of these ascending year 2 guys that you'd maybe say, hey, maybe I have Love and I really like what I see in Caleb? Like, and maybe you ask the guy for a straight swap, maybe he's interested.
I think those are I think I would probably swap Love and Stroud for either or Maye or Williams. I think they're both. I should probably put them all in the same tier, honestly, because their values were the same. I think the Fantasy Pros bucket had CJ Stroud a little bit higher, but I don't love CJ Stroud's rushing upside. And I think with Love, we need him healthy with that knee. He didn't show as much rushing upside that I think he can show. But I mean, they're pretty much all in the same tier.
The floor on these running guys. I mean, all these rushing guys. I mean, like the Love, Stroud. That's the first thing that popped in my head. They're not. They're a little bit more pocket passers. You want to I know we've seen Love have the upside. He just doesn't rush. Maybe it'll come back, but I mean, the Maye Williams. The fact that we saw that in their rookie year, and I think it's there to stay. At least for sure for Drake Maye from a rushing perspective. Maybe it just gives him a little bit better floor going forward.
In hindsight, I might actually move Maye and Williams up to 8 and 9, and then do Love, Stroud with the Bo Nix. Because we like Bo Nix's legs, we don't love the passing as much, but this is a huge tier to sift through, and I think they're all kind of interchangeable. Honestly, I still think Caleb Williams, man. If I went back, it was like a week or 2 ago, but I just watched some of his best plays, and oh my god, like some of the things that he can do. The best is yet to come for him, and I still think he has that 101 pick to prove. So I might change some things around here, but again, it's May or March 8th. We need to see. We get free agency next week, so that's going to be a lot of fun pieces falling into.
For sure. That'll be fun.
But let's try and target some running backs here. And so the running back class was bad last year, but of all people, Bucky Irving. And I want to pull up this and just get your takes on this, because this was insane.
I mean, I see a lot of red.
It was one of the worst. Again, last year was my first year doing my big profile, and this was one of the worst profiles I've ever seen. And I had him really
Small,
low,
light, and not fast.
Just everything was bad. But if you watch the tape, you liked what you saw. But my mind was like, this was really hard to overcome. I think he's too small and he's not explosive. But he proved all of the numbers wrong. So he's like one of the guys that fell through the cracks. And now he's a freaking top 10 running back in my dynasty rankings. Like, what are we? So Rachaad White is probably on a new team in a year. Bucky Irving is going to be the lead back entering 2025. And he rushed for 1,000 yards last year, despite not getting the starting nod until, I don't know, it took him maybe a month to get settled in. But when he did, and again, here, let's see where he finished last year. So RB 14 last year, averaged 14.5 PPR points per game. But again, it took him, I don't know, it took him a few games to start getting into these double-digit carries. And then down the stretch here, this was a fringe RB1. Like, he was an RB1 pretty much.
Won you some championships, probably.
Yeah. So, And I just the volume here too, a 25, a 16, a 20. I think this is from week 10 on is probably what we're looking at
Yep.
for Bucky Irving next year. And then his ability to catch the ball, to get goal line touchdowns. I think this is a profile that we should be very excited about. What do we like about Bucky Irving?
Yeah, I mean, he was hard to take down, fun to watch for a guy who is deemed as small, not explosive. He was a vicious runner. So we love that. We like to see those guys not go down on easy on contact. We don't want the AJ Dillons of the world on our fantasy squads. And then he had the big play upside. I mean, we saw him busting like 20-yard runs, like Saquon Barkley every week. So really just really fun player, good with the ball in his hands, good in space. Really fun player. The biggest drawback that I see to Bucky is he a guy you want getting 20 plus carries every week?
Yeah.
I think while Rachaad White, he's on the back end, I think Rachaad White staying there makes the best sense for Bucky. I don't want to see another name better than Rachaad White coming to town. Because I think that makes sense to get Rachaad White in there on some place. He's a really good pass blocker still. I actually would hope that they just maintain and they're happy. Like Rachaad White's happy in his role, Bucky's happy in his role, and I think that Bucky can still be an RB1, getting it changed out, maybe, getting some sort of 60-40 split, 65-35.
So
fresh for sure.
Before you even said the name AJ Dillon, I'm like, we're looking at Aaron Jones box scores here. This looks like Aaron Jones box scores where he's not a guy that you can depend on a full season of getting 20, 25 touches per game. He's a Ferrari. You want to make sure that he's got a healthy workload and that he's affecting games. There's going to be games where he's not as effective, but he can score touchdowns in those games, and he's just versatile in both receiving and rushing. And then he just has those games where he could just go off and just be the reason why they win 48-14 or 40-17. So that's kind of how I think about him. It's Aaron Jones, and knowing that Aaron Jones never got the treatment of a stud RB1 because there was always Jamal Williams or AJ Dillon there. So as long as Rachaad White, or they kind of like Sean Tucker too as the number 3.
Aaron Jones was a RB1 for probably a good 3-year stretch there.
Well, so that's the thing, is a guy like Bucky Irving, we know he's going to get 1,100 yards rushing and 200-300 yards receiving. It's going to be those touchdowns. There was a season or two where Jones had 16, 17 touchdowns, and there's games here where Bucky's getting a touchdown almost every game. And he finally caught one at the end of the year too. So I'm hoping that his receiving expands a little bit, not so much at the expense of White. Just use what you have. You're probably is Chris Godwin back with the Bucks? That's another big question too.
Yeah. Interesting here on the Bucky when you look at the just looking at the game log here. He didn't score his fantasy points with racking up touchdowns. Didn't have any multi-touchdown games, so he wasn't just locking in 12 points. He was getting good. I mean, making the most out of what he got. Look at those yards per carry. I mean, 7, 6. His yards per catch has to be probably pretty high up there, I'd say.
So I got Bucky at 8 here, ahead of guys like James Cook, Chase Brown, Josh Jacobs, Kenneth Walker. Usually my rankings are 4 to 5 year outlook max because I just try to stay within what a contract would be. And usually running backs don't get 4-year contracts; they're more like 3. Yeah. But I think for the next 3 to 4 years, you're getting a guy in Bucky Irving that can be he doesn't feel like a running back 1. He's like a strong end RB2 probably on your dynasty roster. But I don't know what's going on with James Cook. I really like Chase Brown, but I kind of want to see what the Bengals do because I feel like they're going to draft another running back here. And then Jacobs is just a little older. Kenneth Walker a little bit older. I think that's I don't know. Is that too high on Bucky, or are you taking some of the guys below him?
Yeah, I think just above Cook makes sense. Cook obviously was very fun, but he did it. Somehow he did it scoring touchdowns. He scored so many touchdowns, and that's obviously we're doing some regression there. Chase Brown, let me see it again. It's the classic case of the backup taking over that we all expected. Can he repeat? Is he built to be an every down back? Josh Jacobs, we know, is built to be an every down back. He is, kind of a little bit older. Depending on what your team makeup is, you probably like maybe a Jacobs, Kenneth Walker better than a Brown or a Cook. But if all things in a vacuum, I like where you have it. It just depends on what your team needs. If you're looking at a little more long term, maybe you like the Cook Brown. If you're looking a little bit more to win now, Jacobs, Walker are your guys.
I'm just going to ask you couple questions, and you just respond buy or sell. James Cook,
Sell.
Chase Brown. I guess buy, sell, or hold, because I'm probably holding Chase Brown.
Yeah, I would hold. I would only sell if someone came in with a hot offer.
I just want to look at we should talk just a couple minutes here about Chase Brown, because he was the guy that I was excited about. Zach Moss kind of took the starting job, but when Zach Moss got hurt, we saw a workhorse, multiple 20 carry games, a lot of touchdown, a ton of receiving work.
Yeah.
This profile looks sweet, but we don't trust the Bengals. Although they showed that they're going to do this with Joe Mixon in years past.
Mm-hmm.
This running back class is so good that I get worried about a team like Cincinnati just wanting to collect a bigger back. Because they brought in Zach Moss, and they go and get Khalil Herbert.
Yep.
So they want a big body number two.
Mm-hmm.
I just worry about some of this volume going down, but the receiving profile is what you like here. So I don't know. I think I'm buying Chase Brown. And then I had one more here. Are we buying or selling Josh Jacobs?
I'm probably just a hold on Jacobs. I'll be curious to see what Green Bay does, because I know that they have an out soon
After
on his
this year.
contract. But I mean, man, they leaned on him so heavily. But I have to think that his numbers are going to come down a little bit, just knowing like, hey, we can't just grind this guy for 30 carries a game.
The 1 year outlook for Jacobs looks insane. It's the 2 and 3 year outlook that looks a little questionable. I think if you have a dynasty team that's like, I'm going to win the championship this year, go get Josh Jacobs and then just deal with 2026, whatever happens. But I think Josh Jacobs can be a part of your 2025 plans. And then real quick, buy or sell Breece Hall.
I have to think that the Jets offense can't really get too much worse. I'm just nervous about Braylon Allen, and like, I guess is Hall ever going to be a true number one? I don't want to sell him though, because I don't think his value is going to be where you expect it to be. So I'm probably holding. I might even be considering buying.
So I think what makes me nervous is that like Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis looked good too last year.
I know. Yeah. And that's what I was going to just comment on Chase Brown, is that Cincinnati's offense, where do I think Chase Brown is the most talented running back? No, probably talent-wise he's not top 10. But in Cincinnati's offense, the body is valuable, and that's what makes me a little nervous about Chase Brown. Is like they know that they can put a body in that can be effective.
So I guess we were talking a little bit about Bucky Irving and Rachaad White. The last 2 years, Rachaad White was kind of that version of Chase Brown, just racking up whatever volume was there because he was the last man standing.
Yeah.
So I worry a little bit about that with Chase Brown, but I do think that he's probably better than a Rachaad White was, and probably won't get hopped by like a Bucky Irving type back. Anyone else?
What are you doing with Breece?
With Breece, so I think if you have Breece Hall, I'm probably if I can get the 101, 102, I'll sell Breece Hall. If I can replace him with Jonty.
Where's Jonty and Hampton sliding on this?
Hampton right now, when I updated my I have a link here, just the consensus rankings. I update them maybe once every other week, and this is just for Mock Draft Database. But Hampton moved up to about 33 post-combine. He was in the 40s before the combine. So there's some steam here, and he's approaching the end of the first round. And if he goes end of first round, that means we're talking Kansas City. We're talking some really fun teams that could get into here. So
I want to see a line somewhere. I haven't looked at the draft. I haven't looked at DraftKings to see if the sportsbook has lines yet, but over 1.5 RBs first round plus money, I probably will sprinkle on that. Because I think Hampton's going round one.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think it's gonna be a Gibbs situation where like nobody saw Gibbs going first, as the first running back, but then the line said that's our guy. I think someone's gonna say Hampton is our guy.
Yeah, so I think and a team like Denver, even like with the pass catching ability here, I don't think Javonte Williams is coming back. So their Broncos are entering the free agency period here, I think, with just Jaleel McLaughlin and one of the other little skinny backs on their roster right now. So there's a lot of value in a guy like Hampton.
Dude, I I think I'm starting to fall in love with Travion Henderson a little bit too.
Yeah, he's been so it was kind of Caleb Williams was the number 3 guy for a while, and then now after the combine, it's Travion number 3.
Caleb Johnson, is that you're talking about Caleb
Yeah.
Johnson?
Yeah. Who did I say?
Caleb Williams.
Caleb Johnson is starting to slip a little bit.
But Caleb is really good. So I mean, I
he
think
just didn't have the best workout. That's all.
He's a little bit younger, which I like. I feel like Travion was in college for everybody. I mean, I guess he's 20, he's 22 and a half. You know, he did the full 4 years, but what's so weird is now his rookie, that first year, that freshman year for Travion, was his best season. So like, kind of would have liked to see him leave it a little bit early, but you know, so
I think
I
think he's got a little bit of like a James Conner skill set where he can thump, he can catch, he's just a lunch pail kind of guy. So I like he's strong, big, can do everything.
Lunch pail guys.
Teams are gonna like that. So, any other quick thoughts on a running back here? If I go a little bit lower, Tyrone Tracy. So like, for me, this running back class is so good that I get very nervous when I'm clicking my best ball leagues on some of these guys. Like, is Tyrone Tracy a starting running back, or are the Giants going to draft Quinshon Judkins? Are they going to draft someone that could compete with him? That makes me nervous. So like, I like Tyrone Tracy. I just worry that he's a 1B and not a 1A.
Yeah. Are you selling Derrick Henry and CMC on name value to get what you can?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, Derrick Henry, like, he can't do it. I mean, we say this every year, but he can't do it again, can he?
I can't see 2 years. I can't even see a year out with these guys. You know, that's what scares me.
CMC is just, I think he's broken.
I
got tendonitis, man. I think he's broken.
Dude, his ADP right now on all the best ball sites, like he's going middle of round 2. Like what? I don't get it. He's probably the easiest swerve in all of fantasy football this year.
Yeah, he's just.
We liked how what's his name, the speedster looked.
Yeah, Garendo.
Garendo looked good, and I don't know if they're going to bring back Jordan Mason, but
I think San Francisco, another one where you put the offense that is built there. Shanahan has built is plug and play. He finds his mold of guy, he plugs him in, and he's a beast. So you just don't go after the big name. Find the guy who Shanahan targeted, knowing that if that guy gets a chance, he's going to put up numbers.
And then I want to just ask you, buy or sell Rhamondre Stevenson?
I'm curious too. They could be a team that goes out and gets someone. I don't know what his contract situation is looking like.
They just paid him a bunch of money last year, I thought.
So is he locked in? I had to look and see where he's at
so he signed a 4-year, $36 million deal. They have an out in 2027. So he's got a nice 2-year outlook here as Drake Maye's RB1. I still think Antonio Gibson's there, but this looks like an easy bounce back kind of candidate for me. I still think he's pretty good.
Maybe sling a second rounder for him, See, it seems like.
Yeah, I wanted to see his value here is a 27 on this trade chart, and that would be in a super flex draft. That's a mid-second. Like I'd do that.
Yeah,
because I would imagine in your draft by the mid-second, the top 4 or 5 running backs are off the board.
Yeah,
and you're probably looking at guys like Dylan Sampson, Scatabo, Tootin. We haven't talked about Tootin. We'll talk about Tootin sometime, but he looks like a fun player, screaming up draft boards. But we know these top 5 running backs are the prize. If you can't get one of them, I think Rhamondre is one of those candidates. And then quick thoughts on Isaiah Pacheco.
I don't want him.
Is it done?
I think the fun undrafted experiment is over.
Done. Kareem Hunt outplayed him, and I know he was coming back off injury, but Kareem Hunt outplayed him.
Kareem Hunt was a very usable fantasy player.
Yeah,
and then Pacheco came in and just looked like he just lost a gear.
Yeah, but we're going on
here. I want to ask just real quick, who do you think, like, if you had one name that you're like, go buy this guy. Like, is there a buy somewhere, whether it's deeper on the list or wherever? Where do you think of a guy who's just he's not getting love, he's undervalued?
I thought Trey Benson looked really good last year. When I was doing my analytics study, Trey Benson popped in a lot of things. He didn't have a lot of volume, but he looked good as a receiver and a runner. And James Conner is approaching the twilight zone here. So I think you could maybe try and buy low on a Trey Benson and maybe eat it for one more year where he's not going to be a guy that you start every week. But if James Conner goes down, or if Trey Benson just expands in his second year and becomes more of a guy that we can kind of like how Zach Charbonnet is too. I think Charbonnet and Benson, these guys intrigue me a lot because I could see them starting in the very near future, and I think they're both starting caliber backs. So those two guys look pretty good to me. And then I want to see more Ray Davis in Buffalo, man. I know James Cook is a good player, but I thought Ray Davis, that one game where James Cook was out, Ray Davis ran for like a bajillion yards. He had like the 60-yard catch. Like, I think Ray Davis is fun. But those two names, Charbonnet, Benson, and then my guy, Jaylen Warren, of course. I think if the Steelers, we're going to find out this week. We assume Najee Harris is out. I think Jaylen Warren's back in. I'm a little bit nervous about them drafting a back, but we'll find that out soon enough.
I think, though, that pocket right there that you just highlighted, basically, from Warren to Charbonnet to Trey to Tajay. Get JK out of there, but that's fine.
Yeah. I think the Chargers are bringing back J.K. Dobbins.
Probably.
They told Gus Edwards that to pack his bags yesterday. So, Travis Etienne, I have him ranked too high. I have to move him down.
I mean, I will say, though, just like looking at this list of running backs, there's going to be maybe 8 to 10 rookies that slot up in here.
Yeah. So I haven't inserted rookies into my dynasty rankings yet, just because that I just keep those separate for now. I think it's a waste of my time to do that. But I probably might do that in April. But we shall see. And then we're on 42 minutes here. We are just hemorrhaging time. Let's look at – so we'll go quick on receivers. Do we need to talk about Malik Neighbors or Freak Brian Thomas Jr.? Like, these guys are the freaking nut. Like, unbelievable.
Just you're busting everywhere. You're very excited to have them.
Are you excited about Marvin Harrison Jr.?
I think
it's 15 for me.
If you're asking me buy, sell, hold, I'll buy. I'll see if I can get a dip. Yeah. I'll see if the owner is frustrated and willing to flip for maybe, I'm sitting with the late first.
Yeah.
And he's excited about this running back class. But it's frustrating.
He's a clear buy, but a very frustrating season. And I just don't think Kyler Murray is very good for a receiver prospect. But 63 points here on the trade value chart. That's going to put Marvin Harrison Jr. worth the 103, 104. So he's going to cost a top 5 pick. So the question is Marvin Harrison Jr. or Tet McMillan? Pending landing spot, I think that would probably weigh into the decision, but that's probably where we're at.
Yeah. And if you asked this question last year, I mean, people would have laughed at you.
So I was too scared, but I thought Malik Neighbors was going to be the better player. And I still took Marvin Harrison Jr. 101 just because I wanted Marvin Harrison's kid. That was part of it too. But yeah. I still think there's some room for upside here. Should we talk about Ladd McConkey and JSN briefly here? I think Ladd McConkey stepping into a huge load of targets this season for Justin Herbert. He was really good down the stretch. If I look those numbers up, I just want to see. I'm just going to pick a random week 10 through 18 here, and we'll look at the receivers. But I'm assuming Ladd McConkey just dominated down the stretch here. And you can tell, let's see, wide receiver 15, there's a bye week in here, but the numbers 7.2, 18, 14, 20, 17, 15, 29, 16, like looking like a fringe wide receiver 1. I think Ladd McConkey, probably can't buy him. He's going to be way too high of a cost, but we're all in on Ladd McConkey, yes?
Yep. I got nothing more to say other than he's a good player. I mean, looked a little bit like he was taking some big hits. So that scares me a little bit, but as long as he keeps getting up, man, I think Jordan Addison's a very interesting guy. Probably selling Jordan Addison. I mean,
probably selling Jordan Addison, but I think it might be hard because people are probably downgrading him a little bit just with JJ being a quarterback. But wide receiver 9 from weeks 12 on. And there was a 1-point game in here. I don't know what happened in week 18. That was the game they got trounced by the Lions.
Yeah.
Maybe if I remove week 17 here.
Sammy D produced 2 top 10 receivers.
Yeah.
If he goes to Seattle.
2 top 5 receivers from weeks 12 to 17.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, wheels up for JSN if Darnold lands in Seattle. Wheels up for JSN and DK, to be honest.
Yeah, and JSN's a guy that I liked a lot going into last year, and I thought it was very clear that he could lead the team in targets, and he finally did. And I think we're looking at him being just 140 targets for the next handful of years. And he's kind of like a poor man. I think he's a poor man's Amon-Ra St. Brown in that Seattle offense. But if a lot of that was because of Geno. Now, if they bring in a Sam Darnold, who just produced 2 really stud receivers here for this last month and a half of football, like JSN, like at 12 here, like we could be ranking him up here with some of these names, I think. So he's a clear buy, I think, right now, especially because they don't have a quarterback right now. So you have a window of a weekend here.
Or maybe I was gonna say, like, JSN, you might if anybody at all, just throw an offer out to see if the guy who has JSN is feeling a little bit down.
Yeah.
Because now's the time.
Let's see here.
I would trade for him if I could.
Thoughts on Puka Nacua? They locked in Matthew Stafford here, but Puka Nacua was the number 1 analytic receiver that I looked into from last year. He is the stud. Cooper Kupp is gone. We're talking maybe 170 targets next year for Puka. He's really, really good. I don't know what it would cost to get Puka, but that I struggle with his 2-year outlook. I just don't know what Matthew Stafford's going to look like in 2026. Probably not going to care about Matthew Stafford in 2027. So that concerns me a little bit here. So I might have to push Puka down, but his 1-year outlook is fantastic. I just don't know what do you think on Puka?
Yeah, I think you have it right. I mean, for me, you got them all in the tier together. Neighbors BTJ could be ahead of Puka.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra, and I wouldn't be surprised or bat an eye. The biggest, Puka, if you tell me he plays 15 games, then I'm keeping him right there. He plays vicious football. He's not afraid to go in the middle of the field. He catches everything. He lays his body out. He's just amazingly fun to watch.
This is the group that I start to get torn on a lot. I got AJ Brown, Higgins, Marvin, and Zay, and Odunze up in the 4th tier. And then I got this big tier number 5 where I don't know what to do. Devonta, Rashid, DJ Moore, Addison, McLaurin, Olave, Waddle. I have Olave and Waddle, what feels like to me too low. I don't know. What do you think of this massive group of 4 and 5 tier guys?
Yeah, man, we're spoiled with talent at the receiver position because you have a lot of guys. I mean, Olave and Waddle were probably top 10 dynasty assets a year ago. Just a little bit of uncertainty with Olave and New Orleans Saints, who have no cap and no talent. Don't know how they did that.
And then the concussions for Olave. I think he's had like 2 or 3 in the last year or 2.
Yeah, and he's just kind of gotten banged up, and he hasn't been on the field. And you're starting to think about Michael Thomas a little bit. Yeah. Jalen Waddle, same problems. He just can't stay on the field. But Tyreek Hill, I think, is taken. He's kind of slowed down.
He finally stepped back last year. I think I was looking. What sold me was his mile per hour, like top speeds from 2023 to 24. Like they dropped significantly. So he's losing his best asset.
Yeah.
So I think Waddle's buy low for me. Despite his struggles last year.
Yeah, I mean, if he puts together a healthy season, we're talking about probably a 12 or 13 finish for him. So he's got upside there. Terry, I mean,
he's old though. Terry's old. He's like 28.
Yeah. And if they go out and get a receiver, then he's gonna lose. He's gonna have to be even more efficient than he was last year. Terry was one of those guys who had games where he just disappeared.
We're not concerned. Like Debo doesn't take away from Terry at all, but we're wondering if they do draft a 2nd or 3rd round receiver, if that could take some targets away. The touchdowns were just through the roof for Terry in 2024.
I think
Xavier
Washington
Worthy,
offense probably takes a step back in general. They were super efficient.
it has to. I think the only way it doesn't take a step back is if they upgrade the running back with one of the top backs. Because they really didn't have a running game last year. Brian Robinson is just replacement level, not really a plus starter. That's the big. I actually think that's the biggest area that they could improve is if they draft a running back and kind of just keep going with what they have at receiver. But are you taking Worthy or Rice? I think I have these guys too far apart.
Well, is Rashi going to get suspended?
I think that is a lock for me. We just don't know if it's
how long is that going to be?
So long ago that it might be 3-4 games now. And factoring in the bad knee injury, he's not going to be himself in 2025. So I think for the 1 year outlook, I want Worthy. But it's that 2 to 3 year outlook is what we're talking about here. And I still think Rashi he looked like he was going to win fantasy championships for about a month last year.
Yeah. I think I think you're not, if you hold Rashi Rice and you haven't sold him yet, you're probably committed to him. But if he comes in and looks bad, I would go and target him, knowing that it's going to take a full year. And 2026 is probably his year to be back.
Yeah, and I think once we get to about like July and August, when they start reporting camp and they're going to put Rashi on the PUP list or whatever, that's when you go buy Rashi Rice. Because people can still be excited. Yeah, he's playing this year, but they don't forget that it takes like a good year to get back from injury. So it's going to be kind of an eat it year for Rashi. But Worthy had some of the best growth that I've seen in a receiver in 1 year. Like he was pigeonholed into like a gadgety end around deep ball role for about 2 months. And then they unlocked him, getting him the ball just in a ton of ways. And I don't know. I think I'm too low. I think I should probably move Worthy up into some of these Flowers Odunze tiers.
You could probably, just knowing that there's the Rice injury and the suspension limit, you can almost kind of flop those two around, and it wouldn't be surprising if that's where the industry has them.
Yeah. And then before we're on 52 minutes here, real quick, I'm going to look at the tier 6 guys. Buy or sell George Pickens?
I'm probably hold. I'm tough. George Pickens is tough. I don't. He's just not a guy I like to cheer for. So
that's correct. I think that's the perfect way to sum it up. I just don't think he cares. But Jameson Williams, man, he was a guy that I was wrong about, and I think a lot of people were wrong about him because last year he was part of the reason why they went 14-3 or whatever they did, and he looks like a guy that could be.
Yeah, I think Jamon and Worthy probably need to slide up a bit.
Yep. Ayuk with Debo gone, Ayuk in San Fran for now. There's rumors that he could be moved. I probably would be taking Ayuk over guys like Pickens and Metcalf. So I'm going to move Ayuk up in the next update.
What is San Francisco doing if they get rid of Debo and Ayuk?
They must really, really like Ricky Pearsall.
He's not a number one though.
Yeah.
Juwan is like 30 breakout, the 29-year-old breakout.
Yeah, maybe they like a guy in the draft that they think they could replace Debo with.
Ayuk is an alpha.
Yeah, I don't know. They got to hold Ayuk, but Ayuk's one of those guys, kind of like George Pickens. He kind of irks people the wrong way, and there was videos of him and Shanahan fighting on the field about their shorts. Like, I don't know. Ayuk is not for everybody, and maybe he has worn. They paid him a lot of money to be there. So I'm glad he got the contract, but the fact that they're trying to shop him now, to me, kind of says that like there's red flags.
They're just done with it, yeah.
Jaden Reed at 30, he's a wide receiver 3, boom bust. Are you taking like I probably should move Khalil Shakir up? Are you taking Khalil Shakir or Jaden Reed for the next 3 years?
If I need upside, I'm taking Reed. If I just need 12 fantasy points in my flex, I'm taking Shakir.
Good. I still have hope that they can figure out a way for Jaden Reed to.
He started the year so nice,
consistent. Yeah, like that was a treat. Like we're never going to see that from him for a full season. I just want 7 targets per game. I just want consistency with him, and I think he can be like Zay Flowers type. Probably
he's a playmaker. Then they didn't use him. They didn't use him properly, and I thought LaFleur would be able to do that.
All right, real quick, buy, sell, hold on Mike Evans.
he's not going to get you the value you want, so you're probably just stuck holding him at this point.
Tyreek Hill, same thing.
Yeah.
What about Jerry Judith?
Man, what are the Browns going to take Cam Ward? And if they don't, what are they doing at quarterback?
So I think the quarterback class is meh. If I'm the Browns, I eat it one more year. You eat up that Deshaun Watson money for one more year. You go get one of the best trench players in the draft, and you whip out. I want Jameis back in Cleveland. I think the people liked it, but I think you eat it for one more year. So I think Judy, he was a startable receiver down the stretch after they traded away Amari Cooper.
And they're going to get those. If Cleveland really is that bad, they get rid of Garrett. They're going to be the garbage offense where he's going to accumulate just like 100 yards out of nowhere because the fourth quarter they're playing against backups. So
I think I'm moving Judy up.
I'm a sneaky player to get.
And we're buying Josh Downs, right? Because we didn't even talk about Anthony Richardson in the QBs. Yeah. That'll be for the next episode. We'll talk about A-Rich. Guys that are scaring us. But Josh Downs is a guy that I think I should be moving up. And I got the Ricky Pearsall, Deebo Samuel stuff. I got to move Ricky Pearsall up probably closer to Jaden Reed.
Yeah.
And then McMillan. We did not talk about Jalen McMillan. I'm assuming that the Bucks are probably bringing back Chris Godwin, but if he's gone, McMillan shoots up significantly.
I mean, Evans is gonna hit the cliff soon. Godwin is gonna take a year to come back. So we're talking about Jalen maybe taking on like a JSN type role in this offense. I'm buying.
So I do think for Godwin, it was an ankle break.
So
I do think he's got a chance to be productive right away, but he's also, I think, 30, which is not great for recovery. He's not going to be. Chris Godwin was a league winner last year before the injury, but I don't know if I see the upside there for the next few years.
Yeah.
Let's finish up with the tight ends here. We don't need to talk about Brock Bowers. Like, he's really freaking good. Like, congrats if you got him. He's a slam dunk. McBride, Laporta, Hawkinson. Are there any tight ends you want to talk about here?
What do we get with a Ben Johnson-less Lions offense, and how does it affect Sam Laporta?
Who is the Lions OC now?
Obviously rookie year, he did amazing. He caught a bunch of touchdowns. The regression that we expected came. It came a little bit harder than I think we expected. So what do we get in year 3 of Sam Laporta? And who is John Morton?
Who the is John Morton? So he's a player.
He's been around the block.
Yeah, so he's got some experience here. He was with the Raiders for a long time, the Saints passing game coordinator, the Saints receivers coach, Jets OC for a year. Then he moves to Oakland and the Raiders, and he's been on the Lions staff before, pass game coordinator for the Broncos in 1 year of Russ, 1 year of Bo Nix. So that actually might be nice. I mean, he was the passing game coordinator for Bo Nix last year, so that looks good. Looks like he's got ties to Sean Payton here, a lot of New Orleans stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what to think. I got to do some studying on this guy because
it looks like when you do your projections, how he shakes out.
So wide receivers coach, I'm wondering if he was a wide receiver. He was a wide receiver at Western Michigan. Okay. So I like that. It means he wants to throw the ball.
Frankfurt Galaxy, 1997. Man went over to Germany.
And he's from Michigan, so that's kind of cool that he's back with his team. So
Campbell's a sucker for the story.
I guess just because we're at 58 minutes here, let's just go buy or sell or hold here. Brock Bowers, Trey McBride, we know we're probably holding those guys. I don't think you're going to be able to buy them. They're going to be too expensive, but you can if you want. But I guess Sam Laporta is that first one where you want to think about it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Do I buy it? I think we need to dig a little bit on that to see what the story tells us.
Okay. And I think the emergence of Jamison Williams is what really hurt Laporta last year. He did get better as the year went on.
Targets.
And then TJ Hawkinson, man, we just saw how good Jordan Addison was last year. And now we have JJ McCarthy coming in. Can he float a top 5 tight end and 2 really strong receivers?
This top tier is outside of the top 2. There's just a lot of questions, right?
Mark Andrews, his future with Baltimore is in question. I think George Kittle, I could probably move George Kittle up to number 3.
Yeah, I agree.
he's been the best all around tight end for years, and he had a fantastic year last year. But Mark Andrews with Baltimore, I don't know if he's going to be there forever. They like Isaiah Likely.
Selling.
We're selling Mark.
I am. TD regression coming.
Are we selling?
Look how many TDs he got. No, I don't think he costs a lot. I think
Yeah.
I think I'm okay with Njoku as my TE1.
Yeah.
Back end TE1.
We're selling Tucker Kraft.
Kraft is a guy that I mean, Kraft and Andrews are the two like obvious regression candidates. Kraft is interesting though, just because he has youth on his side.
Yeah.
If that offense takes a step up, as we hope it does, there's some more upside there. The offense was pretty bad last year, and Kraft was kind of the shining star in that offense.
He was the emergency valve a lot of times, and I think he had some injuries for a little bit. There's room for him to definitely grow. But Dalton Kincaid, he's not a top 10,
man.
Why do I got him in the top 10?
Well, I think you got after the Ingram free agency thing. I think it's time to do some updates here. But Kincaid and Pitts supposed to be top 5 guys. They just completely blew it last year. Are you trying to get what you can for Kincaid and Pitts? Are you stuck holding these guys? Are you buying either of them?
I'm open. I think I'm more open to buying Kincaid than Pitts. It just doesn't. It's tight end, man. I'll find Brenton Strange down there, dude. Like, I will figure it out at the
Jake Ferguson bounce back season with Dak coming. I mean, Isaiah Likely.
I'm in on Cole Kmet. I think he's a bounce back player this year. I think these two young guys, Sanders and Theo Johnson, showed a little bit last year where they could be moving up. No. Chico Conquo,
don't be fooled by Jig.
He won me some money last year. Like
at the end of the year, he was so hot. I think he did the same thing in 2023, and I bought in, and I've been burned by the Chig too many times, but I love him.
Zach Ertz is going to be a top 10 tight end in 2025. Just deal with it.
Yep.
And then Mike, if he comes back to Cincinnati, I think that's some wheels up potential there. And then I don't know if there's anybody lower than this, but Brenton Strange is going to be in my top 20 when I do these. So I'm going to wait for free agency wave 1 to happen, and then I'll think about tinkering some of these.
We are desperate for this tight end class to hit. All I want to say is we need the Tyler Warren, we need the Loveland, we need the Fannin, we need these guys to hit. Because it's purgatory here.
Right now, if you don't have Bowers, McBride, Laporta, it really
like if you play Dynasty Baseball, this is like the catcher position. You either have the top guys, the top 2, 3, or you just punt it and you pray.
So speaking of Dynasty Baseball, I think we've covered our Dynasty Power Hour here. We went 1 hour and 3 minutes on the Dynasty Power Hour here. We're gonna keep the Dynasty. We still got time. It's 10:30. I got maybe 5-10 minutes here. We got a baseball draft starting today, so we're probably if you're not into Dynasty Baseball, you guys can. The video is over. The Dynasty Power Hour.
We're gonna try and do this maybe twice a month at least, if not more.
I would like to do it, if not like every other week, like whenever you're available on Saturday mornings. I mean, you got a runway here of another couple months.
Yep.
So whenever
downtime wants the baby's here, we'll make it work.
But I like this Dynasty Power Hour, and I think we can get a lot of ground covered if we just hang out for an hour every now and then. But the Dynasty Baseball draft is starting today.
It's beautiful. The sheets are alive.
What do you know that I don't know?
The only thing I know is I know who should be number 2, and he's not going to go number 2. I mean, Travis Bazzana is the best hitter in this first-year player draft. Unfortunately, Drake does not feel like he needs to take the best talent. He feels like he wants to go positional value, and I think it's going to be a first baseman.
Drake's wrong.
I mean, Drake's team, he just needs to take the best player available. He shouldn't care about position right now.
Yeah, he shouldn't have to think right now. Like, it doesn't matter what his team's going to look like the next 3 years.
It could completely change. I mean, this year he's already punted, so it doesn't matter what he needs at position-wise because, like you said, 2 years, 3 years from now, his team is going to look different. So he should just be taking the best talents available, and it's unanimously Bazzana. I don't know why. What does he know that anyone else doesn't know?
So he might be thinking that, yeah, I get my first baseman here, and then I get my second baseman here, whether it's Keyshaw or Christian Moore.
Yeah.
Because like there's a significant drop from Kurtz and Caglione to the next best first baseman. So I understand it a little bit.
He's trying to get back into the first because I think he likes a bunch of guys, but I don't think anyone's budging at this point.
So we're going with first baseman. Do you know if it's Nick Kurtz or Caglione?
He said he has two names. I have to assume at this point, since he's
two.
I think it's got to be Kurtz and Kegs, and he just doesn't know which one he wants.
He's going Nick Kurtz, dude.
He's taking the safe guy, but I don't like going safe if I'm taking a prospect in baseball. So if we are talking a little bit dynasty, people are sticking around. My strategy is always in these drafts, either take a surefire guy who's like, like a Roki, like a Christian Moore, who's like going to be a fast track, or you take the most upside possible.
So who are those guys then? The surefire guys? We think it's Bazana. I think Weatherholt might be in that group.
Yeah, I mean, Bazana is the guy. Weatherholt's young. That's obviously the big thing, but the upside's there. So upside stamp. He's an upside standpoint guy. I think if you're going to win right now, I mean, obviously Roki is the clearly guy. He's in the majors. Bazana is fast track to the bigs. Kurtz is probably a pretty safe bat that's going to come up quick. Christian Moore is too low on this list. He should be higher. Yeah. But Moore is basically, it's just like Zach Neto last year at shortstop, but I think Moore has even a little bit more upside.
Yeah.
Those are probably the sure bet. I'm sure there's a couple more safe guys in there. But then, I mean, if we're talking purely upside, that's where your Weatherholt, your Caglione, your Connor Griffin, your Jesus Maye, that's where they come into play. Right?
I didn't do much research on these two third base dudes.
Yeah, neither have I. I just don't need third base, but I know that some industry guys really like Cam Smith, and it's kind of like Houston took him, so you trust Houston as an org to identify good talent. Condon's got a good ballpark, but when's the last time Colorado's been relevant?
They're still probably a few years away.
Yeah, and then you have the two pitchers. You have Burns and you have Hagen Smith. Burns is kind of your classic big boy, like has the frame for an ace, and then Hagen is your exotic lefty, I'll call him. He throws a low arm slot, so you're worried about that.
I don't know if Drake was smoking me out, but he didn't seem interested in Chase Burns.
Yeah, I don't think he wants a pitcher.
I mean, he got his schemes last year, so I think he's probably trying to find some hitting because that's where he needs points. Is pretty much all the hitting spots.
Yeah.
So 110 rolls around. What's the cream dream scenario?
I mean, traded back into it. I just want a taste of one of these like top. Well, these aren't obviously my exact rankings, but like I identified like 7-ish names, and so I need just one of them to fall.
I think you're going to be looking at Christian Moore.
Yeah, I think Moore's on my list. There's a few of these guys that I'm not real big on, like the Condon to Smith range because I don't need. Do you like the Montgomery?
I didn't do much research on it because I know my outfielder platoon is pretty deep. Like I have like 6 dudes that I like to play this year, and then I have like a lot of babies in the 18, 19, 20-year-old range. And if I do take Connor Griffin, he's probably going to play outfield and hopefully get eligible for shortstop. So I'm kind of like, if he's here at 207, I have to think about it. But at that point, like if there's other play, like there's a lot to factor in here. So I don't know what to do. I'm probably not going to get him at 207 just because there's a Blake pick in here. I don't know if anybody else is White Sox people.
Yeah, I mean Tyler's not a huge.
What's Hayes' preference?
Twins.
So I'm not going to see Luke Keyshaw come back to me.
Probably not. No, probably not.
That hurt my heart, dude. When I saw Keyshaw at 9, I had him almost in pen round 2. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you never know what's going to happen. I think it makes sense to provide something for people who are like, because there's a few members who just, they don't have the time. They're not doing the digging. Gives them something to like, at least names to plug into Google. I mean, Braden is interesting because the Red Sox gave him up for Crochet, him and Teal, and they just drafted Braden. So the fact that they were just willing to dump him to the White Sox for Crochet makes me nervous. I don't really trust the White Sox organization yet, but they do identify left-handed pitchers well.
Yeah, they're on a hot streak right now.
I mean, Sale and Crochet, and they moved them both, but it is what it is.
I'm disappointed because I was going to draft that was it Noah Schultz? I was looking at him pretty heavily last year, and it just went past me.
Yeah. And Noah Schultz looks pretty good too. There's some fun names on here. I mean, I think your Detroit's got a few fun names. That Bryce Rayner guy is kind of fun.
If I'm indeed taking Jesus and Connor, like I'm looking at, it would be great if they're eligible for both these positions at one point down the line, but I just don't know if I can start my draft with 3 SS,
3 potential shortstops.
I just don't know if I can do it.
They're not. Yeah, it's just like you said. It's hard because between them, what's their average age? They're.
I think Connor's 18 and Jesus is turning 18 later this year.
And Rayner's probably 19.
Yeah. So that's too much.
Long runway.
I am starting to come around to this Michael Arroyo for Seattle. He looks pretty fun.
Yeah, Seattle's got some good names too. You go on that list. They got that pitcher that I like. Farmelo's looks nice.
Farmelo looked nice. He had an injury last year, but people seem to like him. Where is he?
Durangelo. Is that who you're looking at, or are you looking at someone else?
Where's Braylon Payne at 88?
Oh, yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
I don't know why he's so low. I don't know if he just.
I'm considering him round 2.
Yeah, he. There's a couple names down here that you're definitely like. It makes you think like, oh, can I wait around? But then you wait around, and then someone else is.
Well, this league is too tuned in where there's people knowing who they want to target, and they're going to trade up for those guys.
Half the league is pretty sharp.
If I don't take Braylon Payne 207, I have 2 John picks here and Tyler taking picks here. That scares me. So I'm not getting Braylon Payne at 307 is kind of what I'm telling myself.
It's probably a fair bet.
But yeah, I don't know.
How many Milwaukee guys you want to end up with? That's the other question.
Well, right now I have 0 because I'm considering Yelich off my team next year.
Okay.
So if I get an infielder and an outfielder is how I'm kind of looking at it, which feels good.
Who's growing on me a little bit?
Who?
Sakura. Travis Sakura, Washington.
He's so even over like Hagen and Alejandro, he's the one that I think popped on my lists a little bit more.
I liked Alejandro until he's out for the year.
Pittsburgh's got a little sweet thing going on with pitching.
Yeah, they've been good. You've been sniping them guys.
I don't know why like
Ashcraft.
Cam for Atlanta is really low.
Yep.
Sagente is really low. Savage is pretty low. And then I noticed Sloan is really low. Like,
yeah,
these guys were all like top 40 in my lists. So if I can just get one of these dudes, like I'm probably happy with that.
Yeah, you don't want to. It's like Owen Murphy too, another name. Yeah. It's just pitching and prospects. You got to be careful with them. You just got to kind of like pick your favorite one and just take him, and then pray that he doesn't break his arm.
But at that point, like if I'm going to take one of these guys, or do I just take Spaghetti over here?
Yeah, exactly. You take a guy who is going to get you MLB innings that maybe could surprise people.
Yo, we got to make some landmines, man.
Oh, you want landmines?
I mean, you got to probably put Tobias as a landmine.
Terrible. Tobias Myers.
Maybe Dansby.
I like it. I like Dansby.
Maybe who's taking Paul Goldschmidt?
Probably Morgan. Make Morgan.
We got to put.
Just do like all the top guys at the position. Herrera, Goldschmidt.
How do I? You want me to like box them, or do we tell people that these are landmines, or?
I don't know. Are people gonna listen? Are they gonna play along with the landmine game?
It's if you want to.
Yeah.
We'll make this guy.
We'll we won't tell people, but we'll just know that the top player on each of the free agent.
Yeah.
I'll announce it before the draft, and I'll just announce that there are a few landmines.
Yeah.
And you're in the spirit of the game, you'd be persuaded to send a shot video if you draft the landmines. I'll announce them.
We'll just add a little star to each name. Are there any landmine prospects?
I don't want to highlight. I don't want to it feels like if we're adding landmines to the process, we're kind of highlighting them. So I don't want to dissuade.
All right. What about
them.
Drake Baldwin?
Drake,
like a catcher, like he's he's gonna get taken. You're taking a catcher. I don't know. That could be a fun one.
Are there any really fun names? There was a
That's
name
what I was looking for.
There's a Guerrero. The third Guerrero enters the league.
Jonah Tongs.
Oh, there was a name. I don't know if you.
Gary Gilhill.
Gilhill's a good one. Oh, man.
Oh, Ham.
I don't think he made the Beaver is a league
Yeah.
name. Dylan Beavers. Was
At one point, I was trying to make a list of the funny names, and do just a huge sexual draft. Just get some black beaver, some pain.
Yeah, there was a really good name. I don't think he's on. I don't know where I saw it, but elite baseball name. I couldn't. Kenny Powers, obviously.
Yorger.
There's some names on here that I don't hate from a talent standpoint. No, nothing's
Fuentes.
The Fountain.
Yeah, I went deep.
JD Dix. Nice.
Yeah, that was
Kalen Culpepper. That's a nice one.
I keep telling myself it's Dante's kid. But yeah, man.
Went deep.
So we think this is starting around 5 to 7.
Yeah, it's gonna come in. Whenever Corey gets in, I'm sure they'll settle in, say their pleasantries, and then get her grinding.
Yeah. But let's sign off here on the Dynasty Power Hour. We want to thank you guys for hanging out with us, especially these last 15 minutes. If anyone still watched at the end, let me know. Do you guys want Dynasty Baseball content? It's not really something I think we would do often, but we don't know anything. We just read reports and we do the digging of the information of the experts. But it's something that we do like to talk about, especially around this time of year.
Go take Connor Griffin.
Yeah, so I'm pissed. My Pirates hat's not arriving till Monday.
You're gonna throw it on. Send a
pic. I should have jumped the gun on that a little bit, but that's my fault. But anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. We'll see you next time, and hopefully we'll do this soon. Have a good one. Peace.
Got me feeling icy.